Hello, everybody. Good morning, Vanessa, Robert, Melanie, Kenneth, Gavin, Wendy. Welcome to this webinar, Lexi, Buster, Dawn. All right, now everybody's starting to flood in. Hello. We're gonna give it about a minute just to let everybody in, and then we will start. All right, we'll go ahead and start now. I see the number is at a standstill. But hi, everyone. My name is Ariel Rafu. I want to introduce you guys and welcome you to TRA Marketplace 2020, the virtual online version. We're super excited to have you guys today. Today's session name is Social Media Photography. So it is going to be a workshop. We're super excited about it. I'm sure you guys all know by this point how to ask questions, but just another reminder, if you have questions throughout, feel free to ask it in the Q&A button below or in the chat box. We'll get to it either throughout or in the end. And without further delay, I'd like to go ahead and introduce to you guys our sponsor, Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages. Thank you so much for sponsoring the Silicon Hill stage. We do have a quick video for you guys.
We at the Coca-Cola Company believe the health of our water sources is essential to the health of our communities, which is why we're helping to replenish the mighty Rio Grande, as well as over 30 watersheds across the country. We're also leading water projects in more than 100 communities. And for every drop we use, we're working to give one back, because our products rely on the same thing as we all do: clean water. And we care about it like our business depends on it.
Clean water and great soda. Go grab one if you have one. But I'll go ahead and hand it over to Alexandra. Alexandra is the digital marketing specialist for the Texas Restaurant Association. So you guys are in great hands. I will turn it over to you. Thanks, Alexandra.
Thanks, Ariel. My name's Alexandra, and I work for the Texas Restaurant Association. I'm also a professional photographer in what free time I do have. So I'm proud to introduce Hunter Townsend, who's with Consumable Content, and he is going to give you guys some great content today. Hunter, go ahead.
Thanks, Alexandra. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us today. My name is Hunter. I'm the founder and creative director at Consumable Content. We specialize in social media content creation, specifically restaurants, bars, and beyond. Traditional marketing background, photography background in restaurants and bars since I was 17, and just became such a great marry my creative pursuit and the time that I in the hospitality industry, and that I really love. It's been a huge part of my life. So finding ways to help, particularly now when I think the way that so much more than ever has been is really our path and simple content. So through conversation I put together for you all and pause for questions, but I want to I never really know how to fix the sound, but I'll try to keep it as consistent as possible. But let me get into the presentation. That might help things a little bit more. Just listening to me talk. Right, cool. We first started the workshop, we were really looking on good. Oh man, I'm sorry.
Hey guys, thanks for just waiting a sec. We are trying to figure out the audio situation, so just give us one moment.
So Hunter, I can go through the document that we shared together. And then if you want to jump in, maybe we can just switch.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, that'd be great, Alexandra. And I'll drive, and if you can talk through what we put together.
Okay, cool. So let me switch over this 1 second, everybody. All right, so intro, here we go. So when we first started talking about this workshop, we obviously imagined a more hands-on experience, but just like every one of you has to do, we're adapting to this kind of new reality. So we're going to do our best to make this as informative and as helpful as possible. In the chat window, if you guys could let me know if you could hear me okay, and then we will keep on going. So for social media photography, it's such an important piece to your business, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything like that. And it's really easy for people to place it on the back burner or settle for kind of a good enough content, because it's typically the last in a very long line of things they have to do and deal with in their everyday business. So it's great to have a dedicated social media manager if you're able, but not having one isn't an excuse for misrepresenting your brand. So in this workshop, we're going to show you that you don't have to be a great photographer with a fancy camera to create engaging content. So we'll go ahead and get right into it and start exploring a few of the most popular content strategies. So the first one is honestly one of my favorite, flat lays. You can just include a lot of content in kind of the bird's eye view, and I think it gives people a good idea of what your brand is all about. Okay, awesome. Hunter, do you want to try to take over again?
Yeah, we'll see. Let me know if the audio cuts out.
Okay, so far you're good, but if not, I'm ready to jump back in.
All right, I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
So again, sorry everybody, but yeah, flat lay is kind of the place where everyone starts. Root as you dimension.
Hunter, I think you're breaking up again. But that's okay. I'll just repeat it.
So disappointing. Okay.
So I actually love this tagline that Hunter came up with, the love child of iPhones and Instagram. I'm sure you guys have seen this type of flat lay all over Instagram. It's super effective and attention grabbing, in my opinion. So yeah, I gotta agree with you, Hunter. Both of our photography instructors claimed it ruined an entire generation of photographers, but we have to disagree with that.
Yeah,
Go to for aspiring influencers and camera phone photographers for a reason. Oh. Okay. So when you're working with a flat lay, you're working in one dimension, obviously flat, which leaves a lot less room for error. So you don't have to worry about anything like depth of field, funny things being in the background, as long as most of your items are in the frame and they're of similar height. So I think this is the next slide you were talking about, right?
Yeah, so I'll try.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll try. So what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that you can take a very simple photo, just top down on whatever the dish is, and then you can expand to just interesting content to add and pull.
Okay, so if you could go ahead and call in, and then I think we'll be able to keep your video and then use your phone audio. Sorry guys, just 1 second while we get Hunter's audio situated, and then we'll be able to go ahead and continue.
We can all take a moment to see how amazing this looks right now, though. This is just, it looks like it's hitting the spot for lunch.
No, I was telling Hunter by the time we get through this slideshow, I'm going to be so hungry because all these photos look so delicious.
I know. I could go for some ramen right now.
I always say that I want ramen, and then I remember like in Texas, it's 1,000,000 degrees. So I have to wait like 4 more months before I can eat it. Just a few more seconds, y'all. Thank you so much for your patience. Zoom is having it out for us on Friday. Thank you, guys.
Okay, can y'all hear me better now? Man, that is a total nightmare for someone with tremendous anxiety and fear of public speaking. So
My palms are
now
very
let's move
sweaty right now.
What's that?
I said my palms are sweaty, so I feel you.
Oh, yes. Very, very sweaty. Thank you guys for bearing with me. That was terrible. Hopefully that is the worst of it. So let's get back into it. I think this frame has been well established. I'm just going to move forward, and if we have questions about it, holler at me, and I'll be happy to answer them for you another time. So now, as you really start to work with flat lays and you kind of nail down, you get tired of, you want to move past the single item or just a couple of items, you can really zoom further out. This is where you'll see photographers standing on the table, influencers standing on a chair at the restaurant, that kind of thing. And because you're trying to zoom out as far as you can to really paint a broad picture. And with something like this, you want to make sure that kind of like here, you have something for your eyes to land on. So when you're doing these big flat lays, it's not just scatter a bunch of stuff around the table. Really take your time and think about, this still needs to be the star of the show. You still need to have a subject for your photo. You still need to have a composition. But putting something together like this at this scale also gives you opportunities to co-brand. This is a place in San Marcos called Patio del Cheto. And one of the things we were trying to do to help them expand their social media presence was give opportunities for other brands to participate with them. And I have found, I've had a lot of success in the past with, if you have vendors that you work with, if you have products that you feature a lot, incorporating them into your photography, tagging them on social media, you're essentially doing the content creation work for them as well. So now you have multiple opportunities to promote that piece of content. And this is my favorite stuff. I love flat lays, and like the more and more you experiment, the more and more fun you'll have with it. And you'll find that it just doesn't work for every brand. Like really clean, really polished stuff is great for a lot of people, but for Holy Roller in Austin, Texas, it doesn't make any sense at all. People aren't going to go have brunch and have a good time and keep it nice and tidy. So with something like this, you can really start working on pouring your personality into the photo and trying to tell, you know, I've said this a few times already, but telling a bigger story. I think it's important to look at the visuals that you publish as a brand and try to think about, can you say more with an image than you can with a caption? Because people's attention spans are short. And so you want to be striking and you want to capture their attention while you have it. Hero shots are, I guess they go hand in hand with flat lays. I think they're probably just as popular now. But for the purposes of this talk, what I mean by a hero shot is anything that really sets the subject up to be the focus of the composition. And we're trying to, with these, really elicit a physical or an emotional response to that image. Like, I want, when someone scrolls past the hero shot, for them to go, holy shit, I've got to have that for lunch. And if they don't have it that day, I want them to think about that every time they get hungry. And I want that to become the archetype for what that is in their mind. So the next time they want pizza, they're going to remember that image that they scrolled past because we set it up to succeed. We set it up to do exactly that. And so in these examples, this image for VO313 has become so iconic for them, and we're able to do this shot pretty often anytime we introduce a new special, and we're able to utilize this style a lot because it succeeds and we know what people want. And part of our job with social media is, of course, to inform people, especially right now, but a lot of it has to be entertaining people, or they're gonna get tired of it and they're gonna unfollow you. And you're invited into a personal space, and so part of my philosophy is that you have to respect that and appreciate that and give them some value. And so in establishing these shots, the first shot here on the left, this is kind of, I call it a hero angle, because we'll try to get low and position yourself kind of below or at eye level with the subject of the composition so that you can make it larger than life and you can give it a little bit more dynamic and perspective, and really help to make it the star of the show. Another way you can accomplish that without shooting at a different angle, simply shooting it against a background that offers some contrast so that your photo pops. And that little human element with sparkly fingernails here, just little things that don't detract from your hero, and in fact serve to somewhat frame and continue drawing your eye to what you're trying to get people to focus on. And the same concept here on the right, where it's another hero shot. This is another moment that we're looking for that people associate with this brand. For Bar Peached, this is their breakfast, their bacon and egg udon noodles, bacon, egg, and cheese udon noodles, which are absolutely amazing. And part of that experience, like part of what, just like with the pizza, part of what you go to for this experience, part of what you think about when you're reminiscing about that meal or you're at your hungriest and you're thinking about it, is that moment where you pull it up and you get that cheese pull and it's like, oh my God, you're about to satisfy that craving. And so another thought with this is like, so you're connecting with people. How do they perceive your food? How do they experience your food? How can you teach them to experience your food? And how do you elicit that response that makes them either say, I gotta have that for lunch today, or makes them hit the share button or makes them hit the save button, and starting to use that kind of as a metric of the success of your content. Because it's one thing for people to like it and engage with it publicly, but we do find with shots like these, with hero shots particularly, that they tend to be sent to friends a lot through direct messages and things like that. And I think that's such a powerful form of marketing. And it's not hard to accomplish. It's really just knowing your product and spending time with it, asking your customers and your team what they think is the most special about what you're doing, and then put it on camera. And again, you know, there's a little more going on in this scene than in the examples that I showed before, but everything still reinforces that burger as the hero. Even the hands that are holding the burger are a frame within a frame. So you have now two boxes that are drawing your eye to this burger, and hopefully drawing you to nightcap for burger after lunch, or during lunch, not after lunch, maybe after lunch, I don't know your life. Speaking of life, what a cool transition, that was great. So lifestyle photography, this is another big bucket for us. It's another big tenet of what we try to accomplish in the first couple of months of working with a client and establishing their digital brand. Because the food shots are great, and the flat lays are amazing, and they'll get you a long way. But as soon as you're able to, bringing lifestyle into the mix will give you the ability to tell that bigger story in a much bigger way. And so previously we've been focused on getting people to fall in love with what you're doing, and now we just want to show them a little bit more about who you are and about what they might be able to expect, or what they can hope to experience when they come visit you. A couple of questions I'm going to answer real quick. Robert said, do you mainly work in camera or on the desktop? I mainly work for this, let's say in camera. because the first 2 years that I did social media were entirely done on my iPhone. And so take a good photo and, download Lightroom mobile, very quick, very easy to use. And and then you can make it easy on yourself. Now I work mostly on desktop and I shoot mostly in RAW, but we're dealing with much bigger considerations now where we're having to deliver files that clients can print in any format and any size. But when you're shooting for yourself for social, there's no need to overcomplicate it. All right, I'm gonna go back into this. So this is just an opportunity to paint an even broader picture beyond your food. What is your brand about? If you're bright, happy, high energy, you got to show people that so they know what to anticipate and they know how to interact with you. And you also kind of train people how to experience your space and how to share it with their friends as well. There's a few different elements of lifestyle photography. I think I always like to incorporate team members as often as I can. The app was Lightroom Mobile, and I'll answer a bunch of questions here at the end too if we want to do that. I've been on the struggle bus a few times already today and give myself fewer variables. But specifically, you mentioned lifestyle photography in a pandemic. I saw that real quick in the chat. I'm not going to look at it again until we're done. But here's a good example of doing so. So pre-pandemic, this is an employee of VO313, and we try to feature them as often as possible instead of bringing in models, again, to make it authentic. And also because people really like to see their favorite servers and bartenders in social. It makes it so much more real. And so this photo could be accomplished right now in the exact same way to show your curbside dining or your curbside takeout options. Just have her wearing a mask and gloves as she's carrying out that food. And that's an easy way to signal to your customers that you're taking that stuff into consideration and that they can expect that level of safety from you when they come to pick up. In the middle example, and I chose this specifically because I was thinking about the pandemic, and customers can still interact and they don't have to, like if this is a couple, whatever. I think there's been a lot of showing the protective measures. There's been a lot of showing the social distancing. There's been a lot of doing the things that we all kind of know that we have to do and feel that we want to do to let people know we're taking this seriously and that we're being responsible about it. But there's also been a shift, I think, in the past maybe month where we're seeing people maybe get a little bit burned out on that type of messaging. And that's not to say that you need to cut it out or that you can cut it out entirely, but it's to say that restaurants and bars are fun, man. I'll speak specifically of restaurants because restaurants are fun, and they have always been, for me and for so many people, I'm assuming a lot of people that are watching right now, the safest place that you have and the place where you feel most of your community. And so I think it's important still to show people that they can have that experience. They can come in, they can sit down. We've got a little hint, just a smile at the very top, just to give a little bit of a human element. And again, it's Holy Roller, so we put, a little T-Swift, a little nod to Dirty Bills down the way and give it some personality. But I think taking moments to show that it's still something that people can relax and enjoy and feel safe and feel comfortable, I think that's important. And then on the flip side of that, this image for the peach tortilla performed extraordinarily well. And I was really proud of it because I thought it was not a typical, hey, we're wearing masks, we're doing all this, we're taking it very seriously. They're obviously taking it seriously, but they're obviously still having a good time. It's a restaurant, like these people still love what they're doing. They still love food. They still have a passion for serving people. And so I think that you can, again, put your personality into that and let people know that you're taking it seriously, but that you're still in hospitality. You're still there to take care of people. You're still there to have a good time. So there to be a good host. And this is, I alluded to this earlier, but I think with lifestyle, one of the biggest advantages you have as you start kind of creating this kind of content is to tell a bigger story, a broader story about maybe even what you originally dreamed for your brand. You know, like this isn't to say you need to wait until you have customers and fans and see how they experience it and capture that accurately. That's all great, but you probably had a vision for what you wanted people to experience in your restaurant when you opened up, or before you opened up, way before you opened up. And you probably have an idea of what that customer looks like. You probably have an idea of what you wanted them to wear, how they sit, you know, like I think a lot of what holds people up in creating good lifestyle content is being afraid of maybe being too artsy or looking silly or being hesitant to direct people. But if you have a vision, get a couple of teammates, get a girlfriend, get a boyfriend, whoever you have around you, whoever you have in your life, tell them that vision and let them help you execute it. Most people are super happy to do it as long as you keep their faces out of the photo. Some people are down to have their face in, some people are not. And so if you can let them know ahead of time, like, hey, I'm just going for a certain composition. I'm really trying to show the drinks, your colors on your clothes. This is a vibe I'm going for. People loosen up and be super helpful. And then moving into this next part, I think this is probably, I know this isn't specifically social media photography in terms of creating it for yourself, but again, being a pandemic and creating content in a pandemic is another challenge. And so if you're lacking for lifestyle content, if you're struggling there, because again, the spaces you've designed, maybe you're not able to utilize them the way that you imagined, lean on user-generated content. This is a gold mine for a lot of brands. And it relies on having an engaged audience that is actively posting their own content about your brand. But there's ways to create that content too, or to kind of solicit that content. A lot of times, if you're not working with a PR company or a social media management company, there is maybe you're not taking advantage of all the influencers and the bloggers and the people that are helping to develop the restaurant scene right now and helping to keep it alive, helping to communicate. And so I think this is a great opportunity for right now to start following some accounts and some creators that you like, start learning about the bloggers in town, start learning about the influencers. And, you know, no matter your feelings about the influencer thing, I think they've been exceedingly helpful in the past several months with, you know, we've engaged probably 15 different influencers to work for a number of different brands. And none of that has come at any cost aside from a comped meal. And a lot of that in the beginning was that we wanted to be able to showcase the way people were enjoying the food currently. And where in the past we would go into the restaurant, we'd try to build a scene there. It doesn't make sense right now. And so by creating kind of an influencer program, and influencer partnerships, and working with these content creators, offering them some free food so they can create content for their own platforms, that's only giving you a bigger voice. And it's allowing you to see how people are authentically experiencing your takeout offerings or what have you, and gives you a lot more variety for your feed right now. And not only that, but UGC, user-generated content, tends to outperform highly curated content. There's an element of, I think, social validation to being able to post a photo that you didn't create, that your fans did, and then being able to tag them in that caption and acknowledge it. It creates a couple of things. Like I said, the social validation and showing other people that, hey, look, we have fans, we have friends, we have, you know, like we're not over here by ourselves in a corner. And the other part of that is that again, it's going to perform a little bit better. And the more of this UGC that you publish, the more that you're going to receive. I think people who see you sharing content, like content creators and influencers, kind of know that, hey, if I go out and spend my own money and create content for this brand, they're going to share it. And I'm going to see some amount of influence, some amount of increase in engagement from it. But if they are creating content and they know that a brand is not going to share it, that's probably not going to happen very often. So just kind of building that community, I think, is really a good place to put your focus right now. And as a last note to that, studying this UGC will give you better ideas for creating your own content, and it'll help you see how people perceive you outside of how you've always perceived yourself. And that's about it. We're drawing to a close. I had a few things that didn't fit in my my slides there, but just like the UGC, I think using hashtags to look for ways to shoot things that you're not entirely confident with how to represent. Like I use the cheese curd example here because I was 100% shooting for a client, and they were like, "Hey, here's our new product, it's cheese curd." Slapped the basket on the table, and I was like, "Oh my God, I don't like this. It's just a basket of fried. Like I don't know how to make this look interesting." And so very quickly, just like I was like, "Oh my God, Instagram hashtag cheese curd," and I was able to find like, okay, boom, boom, boom. These types of content perform well. What can I do real quick to make it happen? And it ended up being successful content. And so don't be afraid to look for those ideas and make them your own. There's no shame in that game. When you're shooting for social, this is actually a huge thing. If you shoot in portrait orientation, not portrait mode, I'm speaking specifically of shooting vertically. That will maximize the amount of screen time that your post receives. If you just think about and even look on your own social media feeds after this, definitely not my no. And you'll see that the images that are in landscape, I love those. I think they're more cinematic. That was what I enjoyed shooting to begin with. But man, the first time that I posted a vertical photo, I was like, oh my God, that was the secret. We just unlocked, like, I think you get like 60% more time on someone's screen. And so for me as a content marketer, there are very few instances where I can justify doing anything but that. And lastly, get involved. The way I heard it originally was be engaged and engaging. Social media is very much a two-way street, and the more that you put into it, the more you're going to get back from it. So if you're going to take the time and the effort to create content and to be intentional about what you're doing there, be a member of that community, because it will get you more and more and more out of that investment. And that's it, guys. We did it. We made it through that part. Let's get into the Q&A.
We did it. You did awesome.
I'm so glad we found the phone. That would have been a terrible hour if we had not done that. Thanks for helping me out, Alexandra.
I got you. So we do have a couple of questions. For the photos, is there any beginner lighting you can recommend?
Beginner lighting, that's a good question. Natural lighting would be my suggestion, I guess.
Windows are free.
Yeah, windows are free. Windows, and it's the best looking light. I mean, I think the first lighting kit that I got was maybe $100, probably a little too complex for like an on-the-go setup. Alexandra, do you know anything about working with ring lights or any kind of maybe smaller, more tabletop lighting setups? I haven't really experimented with those before.
So I, for like close-up shots, I use a static video light, and I think I use a lot of products from bhphotovideo.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I got like a rectangular light to attach to the top of my camera for maybe like $40 or $50, and it has different filters you can put in front of it to make the light warmer or cooler, depending on kind of what environment you're in. So I would suggest that. I don't think, and I use like, for my weddings, I use all off-brand flashes, like Canon flashes, like on-camera flashes can run you $400 to $500, but off-brands are like maybe 120, and they work just fine. I just invest in really good batteries. So I don't think that you need to stick to the high dollar brands, honestly, when it comes to lighting. Like I've spent less than $100 on some of my lighting equipment, and it's worked like a charm.
Mhm. Yeah, and another solution might be just using a reflector, just using something like if you have a window that you're using that you've been shooting in front of and you're just not getting enough light, you can always use I've used on shoots in a matter of necessity. We've used pieces of tin foil. We've used just like, a white cardboard box if we can find it, a piece of butcher paper, whatever you can find to kind of bounce light back into that scene will help kind of alleviate those shadows and stuff.
Yeah, I agree. If you want to, I think that's a good approach too. If you don't really know what kind of like lighting or reflective material you want to use the cheaper stuff before you invest in something a little more professional. That way you kind of know what you need to invest in.
Mm-hmm.
A couple more questions. What are your thoughts on incorporating stock photographs?
I don't have a lot of them, to be honest. I think if it's an absolute necessity, I get it. And I think I pay for a membership with Adobe Stock. It's fantastic. I mean, it's great content. It's just it never looks authentic. It's too well lit. It's too polished. I've been a full-time photographer for several years, and I'm not creating content that looks that good yet. And so for me, it just rings disingenuous. I think if you can avoid it at all, like I said, bringing an influencer, even Adobe Stock, I think maybe I pay $30 a month, save up 3 months of that and just pay someone, a photography student, $100. Like there's a lot of people who will come in and create content for you for free or low cost that I would always suggest that before going to stock photography.
Yeah, definitely. So on the topic of influencers, are there any that you suggest in particular?
So shoot me an email, I think that's up right now, my email address, because it's specific to each city, each market. There's really no one that I would recommend for every single brand. I think it's important to look for the people who look like they would be a good customer for you, and make a relationship with that person particularly. So, but please shoot me an email. I'd be happy to help you kind of source a few people in your area.
Awesome. What are your thoughts on video versus still photos in social media, and what video editing software do you use, if you do?
Man, I use a guy named John Scotty at Eat My Media for video editing software. I love video on social. I think that it is increasingly important. I've had mixed results though. I think that if you're creating video, you should create video with maybe an actual advertising campaign in mind, where you're going to put some ad money behind it and really put it in front of way more people than you would reach organically, because the cost of video tends to be quite a bit higher than photography for the amount of usable content that you'll get out of it. And it just hasn't performed as well organically for us on social. I think part of that is that Instagram particularly was designed as photos, and it was really just snaps that were supposed to be in the moment. As we got away from that, we started staging photos. I don't think anyone posts in real time on Instagram anymore. Even if you're if posting on your personal account, you're probably snapping and then taking it home and editing and putting it up later. And so, yeah, I think that I think it's been good. I think that you still need to put that in a portrait orientation in a vertical format, and maybe rely on it more for stories than for actual grid content, because it feels like a disruption of the native Instagram experience. I think when you stumble across a video, it's becoming more normal, but I do think they perform better in stories, and particularly as sponsored stories that you can reach a big audience with.
Yeah, I think people's attention span is more geared for photos too. Whereas if you're going to something like an Instagram story, people are expecting to spend that amount of time maybe on a video instead of a photo. So definitely agree with that.
Right. And we still limit videos when we publish videos. We still limit them to 15 seconds because that's, If Instagram thinks that's the longest they can hold attention, that's definitely the longest I can hold attention.
Exactly. So a couple more questions about influencers. What are some ways to build a relationship with influencers? And are there any metrics that you look for in an influencer, like minimum followers, pay rate, that kind of thing?
So I don't have, nothing is ever really set in stone for me. I take everything kind of situation by situation. So I find that I don't really set a minimum metric because I think that there are certain influencers I work with who have 12 or 1,400 followers. And so, you know, they're a micro influencer, I guess would be the correct term, but that's almost more valuable to me because that means to me that their audience is still very genuine. And a lot of those content creators are so hungry and they're so happy for opportunity, and they're creating such great content. So I think that it has to be a measure of, you know, what does that trade-off look like? If you're going to give away, you know, maybe at cost, you're giving away $25 or $50 worth of product. I would look at one of two things. Either A, does this influencer create outstanding content? Then sweet, that's totally worth $50 of cost for me. They'll give me 10, 15 photos that I can use, you know, over time. That's great. And on the flip side of that is like, maybe their content is middle of the road, but they've got 100,000 followers and they get 20% engagement and people are commenting and sharing and liking on everything that they do. So maybe you wouldn't personally get a lot of use out of that content, but you would get clout. So I think it's just a matter of weighing the situation and weighing that particular influencer and the use case.
Okay, awesome. A couple more questions. What are your thoughts on tracking, naming, cataloging your photos?
Man, in pulling this presentation together, I wanted to go and just like do awful things to 2 years ago me. My cataloging, tracking, naming has been just all over the place. It's probably the hardest part of photography for me, of content creation, to be really honest, because when you're creating for one brand, you're creating a lot of content. When you're creating for multiple brands, you're creating insane amounts of content. And so previously what we would do is organize by month. And I would be like, oh, brand, month, here's all the photos I took in that month. That works when you're in like a 3-month period and you know where everything is and you're the only person on your team. But it very quickly falls apart when anyone else gets involved. And so now what we kind of do is create what we call content buckets. So I know that for each of our brands that we work with, we have in between maybe 4 and 10 different types of content we're trying to create regularly and trying to feature on their feed regularly to create variety. And so what we'll do is kind of create, if you're talking about like a hierarchy in your file management system, creating a brand folder, and then from there having each of those content buckets, and then within those we name with the date first, so that we can always kind of sort by what is the most recent photo that we have, what's the oldest photo that we have. In a perfect world, we're also filing those photos away once we use them so that we know this is not fresh content anymore. But not a perfect world. So that's not what I do currently.
Yeah,
Just trying to remember that part. That's the next evolution.
I know, right? It's like, yeah, I have a little more time now because I don't have as many shoots, but the last thing I want to do is tackle my file organization. So it just doesn't happen.
Nah. If you don't do it in the moment, it just doesn't get done ever.
Yeah, it's over with. Nope.
Yeah.
So last question, have you tried any light boxes or anything, or do you kind of just use big reflectors?
I haven't tried any of the small light boxes. Well, I've seen a couple in use. We didn't end up working with them. I talked to somebody maybe last year who actually had one of those boxes set up on their counter at where customers would check out. And that's not applicable at the moment, but I thought it was a cool idea that I think the white boxes, if you're shooting mainly for product photography, like if you're trying to set up your online ordering or your Shopify, your online store, you're shooting merch, or you're shooting a cocktail kit, or something where you're really just trying to show this is the product. I think white boxes are cool for that. But otherwise, I think, you know, unless your brand looks like a white box, I don't think it's a good option for a lot of social media content. It just depends on if it fits with your brand aesthetic.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's all the questions we have. Any final words for you, Hunter?
Oh man, get strong Wi-Fi. Be more prepared for. No, I don't have any final thoughts. I think I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, TRA, for having me. And I'm super happy to help. So you have my email address, my website, Instagram, whatever. Shoot me a message and reach out. I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks, Hunter.
Thanks, Joe.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Hunter, I know I got a lot out of that. I do, you know, some of the social media for Dallas, and I definitely got some good notes in. So thank you, Hunter. And thank you, Alexandra. And thanks everybody for attending. Our next discussion is going to be at 11 a.m. and the topic is the future of restaurants. So we will see you guys on this stage at 11 a.m. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe.